Men are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of them. Epictetus. What if I told you that almost everything you feel, anger, jealousy, fear, even envy, isn't caused by the world around you, but by the hidden patterns of human nature that everyone shares, even the people you trust the most? Imagine realizing that so many of your daily frustrations, your moments of self-doubt, and your cravings for validation aren't random. They're predictable, timeless, and something the Stoics understood over 2,000 years ago. In this video, we're diving deep into the 7 brutal truths about human nature that the Stoics saw long before psychology textbooks existed. These aren't feel-good platitudes. They're hard-hitting realities about the way humans think, react, and often sabotage themselves. But here's the thing. Once you understand these truths, you gain a secret weapon, a way to navigate life calmly, see people clearly, and master your emotions in situations where most lose control. So stick with me till the very end. Each truth builds on the last, and by the time we're done, you won't just know why people act the way they do. You'll know exactly how to respond in a way that keeps your peace, your power, and your perspective unshaken. Number 1, most people act out of fear or self-interest, not reason. One of the most uncomfortable truths the Stoics understood, and one that can shake you if you face it honestly, is that most people act out of fear or self-interest, not reason. Think about it for a moment. How often do we see others, or even ourselves, making choices that aren't guided by logic, justice, or the pursuit of virtue, but instead by some internal pressure, anxiety, or desire to protect ego, status, or comfort? Epictetus warned that it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If you truly grasp this, you realize that much of what seems like random human behavior is actually predictable if you look beneath the surface. People are often driven by fear, the fear of loss, the fear of being wrong, the fear of not being seen as competent. And just as often, they act from self-interest, seeking gain or advantage without stopping to consider the wider consequences. It's not malicious, it's human, but understanding it is your power. Once you accept this, the lens through which you see the world shifts. You stop taking things personally. When someone acts selfishly or out of fear, it's not about you. It's about their own internal struggle, their own inability to act from reason. Reminds us, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? The more you internalize this, the more you see patterns instead of chaos. You start recognizing that much of the noise, drama, and conflict around you is born not of malice, but of instinctive self-preservation and unchecked desires. This is where your own discipline comes in. You can't control how others act, but you can control how you respond. Begin by observing your own motives. Ask yourself, am I acting from reason or am I running from fear? Am I pursuing what's right or just what's easy or advantageous to me in the moment? Journaling is a powerful tool here. Spend 5 minutes each day reflecting on your actions and impulses. Write down the moments where you felt fear or self-interest influence your choices. Don't judge yourself, just observe. Awareness is the first step toward mastery. Then practice pausing before reacting. The Stoics didn't just preach reason, they trained themselves to apply it consistently. Epictetus often stressed that between stimulus and response lies a moment of choice. Use that pause. When fear or desire bubbles up, don't immediately act. Breathe. Consider what the rational, virtuous response would be. Over time, this becomes a habit, a muscle you strengthen daily. You're not aiming for perfection. You're aiming for conscious, reasoned action in the face of human impulses that will always exist. Another exercise is reframing your perception of self-interest and fear in others. Instead of feeling frustrated or betrayed when someone acts out of self-interest, remind yourself, this is their nature, not a reflection of reality's injustice. Imagine each interaction as a small training ground. The more you encounter fear-driven or self-serving behavior with calm and reason, the more resilient you become. You're no longer tossed by the waves of other people's impulses. Instead, you stand steady, guided by your own reason. Finally, take this truth and let it inform your goals and relationships. Align your actions with principles, not with what you think will gain approval or protect you from discomfort. Every decision rooted in reason builds character. Every moment you resist fear and self-interest strengthens the freedom you crave. Remember, as said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you train your thoughts toward rationality and virtue, you color your life with clarity and purpose, even while others flounder in fear or selfishness. This is your invitation to act, not react, not follow instinct blindly, but step into the rare, disciplined space where reason governs. Observe, pause, reflect, and choose virtue. That is how you rise above the ordinary patterns of human behavior and walk a path few ever notice, but all Stoics knew was the key to true freedom. Number 2, external events are neutral. It's our judgments that cause suffering. If there's one thing the Stoics understood better than almost anyone else, it's this: the world itself is not out to hurt you. Wrote, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Think about that for a moment. Every frustrating email, every harsh word, every unexpected delay, on their own, these things are neutral. They just happen. The suffering you feel, the anxiety, the irritation, the resentment, it all comes from the story your mind spins about what's happening. It's your judgment, your interpretation, your labeling of events as good or bad that creates the pain. And here's the thing: if you can learn to step back and separate the fact from the judgment, you can stop letting the world dictate your inner state. You need to start noticing how your mind reacts before you even have a chance to spiral. When something happens, pause. In that pause, remind yourself that this event is neutral. It's not a disaster. It's not a betrayal. It's not a personal attack. It just is. What follows, whether you feel upset, anxious, or frustrated, is entirely in your control. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." Your emotions are never the fault of external events. They are your responsibility. And taking that responsibility is liberating. It's where your power begins. Start small. Pick one moment today where you feel tension rising. Maybe it's a thought, a passing irritation, a disappointment. Stop. Breathe. Name the event for what it is, not for what your mind says it means. Don't call it unfair or terrible. Call it neutral. Then watch how your reaction begins to shift. You're training yourself to see reality clearly, not colored by fear, anger, or frustration. This is a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger you get. The more natural it becomes to step back, assess, and respond with calm instead of reacting with chaos. And don't just stop at noticing. Begin actively questioning your judgments. Ask yourself, is this truly harmful or is it just uncomfortable? Am I labeling this as bad because I want things to go my way or because it really violates my principles? By doing this consistently, you start rewiring your mind. You start creating distance between stimulus and reaction, which is the essence of freedom. Seneca put it beautifully: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Your mind is capable of imagining horrors and injustices that don't exist yet, and often they never will. By seeing events as neutral, you're no longer a prisoner of imagined catastrophes. Then take it further. Every time you catch yourself slipping into judgment, practice reframing. Ask, how can I use this situation? What can I learn? How can it make me stronger, wiser, more patient? This isn't about suppressing emotion or pretending everything is fine. It's about seeing reality clearly, meeting life as it is, and choosing how to respond with intelligence and composure. Over time, you'll notice something incredible. The world becomes less threatening, less frustrating, less chaotic. Because the chaos was never outside, it was inside. So take action. Start today. Begin by pausing, observing, questioning, and reframing. Make a habit of reminding yourself that events are neutral and your judgments shape your suffering. When you catch yourself reacting automatically, pull back. Use that moment as a training ground for your mind. Practice. Repeat. And remember, as Epictetus urged, you have the power to choose how you interpret the world. No one can take that from you, not circumstances, not other people, not fate itself. You are the gatekeeper of your mind, and by mastering this, you begin living like a Stoic, calm, resilient, and free from the unnecessary chains of suffering. Number 3, we often blame others for our misfortunes, instead of taking responsibility. One of the hardest truths the Stoics understood is that we are often quick to point the finger at others when life doesn't go our way. Epictetus, a master of inner freedom, reminded us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Think about that for a second. Every time you feel wronged, every time you catch yourself thinking if only they hadn't, or it's not fair because of them, you are giving away your power. You're handing the reins of your life to someone else, allowing circumstances and other people to dictate your peace of mind. That's the opposite of freedom, the very thing the Stoics chased above all else. You have to start seeing that blame is a habit that keeps you stuck. It's comfortable in a strange way. Pointing outward feels like justice, like you're protecting yourself, but it's really a trap. It masks the deeper, sometimes uncomfortable truth that you have control over your own responses, your own mindset, and your own actions. Wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Those outside events, the people, the circumstances, the situations you think are causing your misery, they're just the canvas. Your mind is the brush, and you are the artist. Until you take responsibility for your strokes, you will always feel like a victim, wandering in a world that seems unfair and chaotic. Now, this isn't about guilt. It's not about beating yourself up for every time you blame someone else. Stoicism isn't punitive, it's liberating. It's about clarity and action. The moment you start catching yourself thinking they did this to me, pause, stop, breathe, ask yourself, what part of this am I responsible for? What can I control right now? That's the pivot point. That's where your freedom begins. You shift from being a passive participant in life to being the architect of your responses. You move from frustration to empowerment, from anger to focus, from stagnation to growth. Here's a practical exercise to anchor this. Every time you feel irritation, resentment, or injustice, write down exactly what happened. Then beside it, write down what you can control about the situation. Maybe you can't control what someone said, but you can control your reaction. You can choose calm over fury, clarity over confusion, action over complaint. Do this consistently, and over time you'll notice a shift. The reflex to blame others will weaken. Your mind will naturally lean toward ownership, toward the Stoic approach of taking responsibility for your own peace and your own progress. Another exercise is mental rehearsal. Each morning, imagine situations where you might feel wronged or frustrated. Visualize yourself responding with ownership instead of blame. Feel the difference. Imagine the freedom in choosing your response, the quiet satisfaction of knowing that no one else can steal your composure without your permission. Said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. When you take responsibility instead of blaming, every obstacle is transformed into a stepping stone, every annoyance into an opportunity for growth. The beauty of this practice is that it's both simple and profound. Start small, notice your thoughts, catch the finger pointing, shift it inward. You don't have to be perfect. Stoicism isn't about never faltering, it's about learning to bend your mind toward freedom and reason. The moment you embrace responsibility, you reclaim your life. You stop being a victim of circumstance. You start living deliberately. And that's where real power begins. The quiet, unwavering strength that comes from knowing that no matter what happens around you, you always have control over yourself. Number 4, desire and attachment are the root of most human pain. What if I told you that the endless frustration, the quiet gnawing dissatisfaction, and even the sharpest heartbreaks all stem from one simple source: desire, attachment. The insistent "I need this, I want that" that never seems to stop. The Stoics saw it clearly centuries ago. Epictetus put it bluntly: men are disturbed not by things but by the view which they take of them. That's a fancy way of saying that your pain isn't caused by the world itself. It's caused by how tightly you cling to it, by the expectations you pin on life, and by the relentless hunger for what you don't have. If you can grasp this, even just a little, you begin to realize that your suffering is largely optional. Take a moment and reflect. How often do you feel tense or restless because something outside of you didn't go the way you wanted? You think, "I can't stand this situation, I need it to change. I can't live without this outcome." That very need, that invisible chain of desire, is what turns ordinary events into torment. Stoics call it attachment, wanting what's beyond your control, demanding that life conforms to your whims. Seneca warned us, "We are always complaining that our days are few and acting as though there would be no end of them." Every complaint, every anxiety, traces back to the unwillingness to accept life as it is, to detach from outcomes and possessions and people and circumstances. The good news is that you can practice loosening these chains. Start small. Tomorrow, try noticing one thing you crave, something you usually obsess over, something that feels necessary for your happiness. Sit with that craving. Don't act on it immediately. Watch it, feel it. Recognize it as a desire, not a necessity. This is your first step toward freedom. You're training your mind to separate your sense of peace from external circumstances. Said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Your attachment has power only if you let it. Next, actively remind yourself that nothing outside your mind can truly harm you unless you let it. When a disappointment arises, resist the instinct to blame the world. Resist the urge to grab at fleeting comfort. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this within my control, or am I clinging to what isn't mine to command? This simple reflection rewires your instinctual response to desire. Over time, it becomes easier to let go of the little cravings that silently dictate your mood, your energy, your happiness. You stop running after shadows and start standing firmly in reality, grounded in what you can shape. Finally, create a daily ritual that reinforces this awareness. Each morning, identify one desire you will consciously release, one expectation you will not cling to, one attachment you will observe without giving it the power to disturb your calm. It could be as simple as letting go of irritation at the delay of something, or resisting the urge to check for validation from others. In the evening, reflect on what you practiced, what held your attention, and what you let slip away without pain. This habit, small as it seems, compounds. Every time you detach, every time you choose not to let desire rule your peace, you reclaim a piece of your inner freedom. You can live without being enslaved to cravings. You can feel content without needing the world to conform to your whims. The Stoics didn't just preach this. They lived it, quietly mastering desire, steadily strengthening their minds. And you can do the same. Start today. Notice, detach, reflect. With each deliberate practice, you chip away at the root of human suffering, the root that has quietly ruled countless lives for centuries. Desire and attachment no longer need to be your masters. You have the power to turn them into allies, or at least to strip them of their tyranny. And when you do, The world feels less like a battlefield and more like a place where calm, clarity, and freedom can thrive. Number 5, people rarely change. Character is consistent over time. If there's one truth the Stoics hammered into their bones, it's that people rarely change. Wrote, "Men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then or endure them." What he's really saying is that expecting others to suddenly transform, to suddenly behave in ways they've never behaved before, is a path paved with frustration. People's character is like the roots of an ancient tree, deep, fixed, and resistant to the winds of passing whims. You can't make someone become generous if they've always been selfish, or patient if their nature is quick-tempered. And the sooner you accept this, the lighter your mental load becomes. This isn't meant to make you cynical. It's liberating. The Stoics weren't suggesting that you close yourself off from the world or stop caring. They wanted you to see reality clearly, without the rose-colored glasses of hope that someone will suddenly become the person you want them to be. Epictetus said it simply, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If people rarely change, then the only place you hold true control is in yourself. Your thoughts, your habits, your reactions, they are yours. And when you realize that, a whole new strategy for living opens up. You stop wasting energy trying to mold others into who you think they should be. Instead, you invest in yourself, shaping your own character, strengthening your own mind, and refining your own virtues. Here's the practical truth. If you want a smoother life, don't chase change in others. Observe them, yes, but with detachment. Recognize patterns in their behavior, anticipate reactions, and adjust your approach accordingly. This isn't manipulation, it's wisdom. When you understand that people's character is consistent over time, you stop being surprised by the same mistakes, the same frustrations, the same disappointments. You learn to step back, breathe, and respond with clarity instead of anger. That is power. You can start small. When someone tests your patience today, pause, ask yourself, is this new behavior or is this just who they are? Recognize the answer, then choose your response consciously. Every time you do this, you are exercising control over your own mind, practicing the Stoic art of self-mastery. Reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. It's a habit you can build like a muscle, repeating it until reacting impulsively feels unnatural, and responding intentionally becomes second nature. Another exercise is to journal about the people in your life who trigger you the most. Write down their consistent patterns without judgment. Don't fantasize about how you wish they would change. Simply observe. Then reflect on your own actions in response. Could you adjust your approach? Could you anticipate the predictable rather than being by it? Over time, you will notice your stress and frustration diminishing. You'll feel lighter, freer, more aligned with reality, and more in control of your own emotions. Ultimately, understanding that people rarely change isn't about resignation. It's about clarity. You redirect your energy from the impossible task of reshaping others to the infinitely more powerful task of cultivating yourself. You embrace what is real, and in that embrace, you find freedom. So start today. Observe, accept, respond intentionally, and build your inner fortress. The Stoics knew that when you master this principle, you gain a profound calm that no human inconsistency can shake. You learn to flow around the unchangeable, rather than crashing against it, and in doing so, you live with strength, serenity, and wisdom that is entirely your own. Number 6, social approval is fleeting, yet we endlessly chase it. What if I told you that the applause you're chasing, the nods of approval, the likes, the comments, they're all as fleeting as the morning mist? Once reminded himself, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Human nature is wired to seek recognition, yet that recognition is never stable. You might think approval will make you feel secure, confident, even loved. But in reality, it's a fragile thing, here today and gone tomorrow. You chase it, you shape your behavior around it. You warp your own desires to fit its demands. And all the while, it barely satisfies the soul. You have to ask yourself, why do you let the approval of others dictate your peace of mind? Why do you bend your own principles just to be seen favorably? Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You have the power to decide how much weight you give to the opinions swirling around you. You can choose to let them pass like leaves floating down a stream, or you can let them control your every thought. And here's the thing. The more you rely on social approval, the less freedom you have to live according to your own values. The Stoics knew this. They understood that true strength comes from internal validation, not the temporary cheers of the crowd. Now, this doesn't mean you withdraw from people entirely or ignore feedback. No, that's not what Stoicism teaches. What it asks is far subtler. Develop a core of self-respect and inner judgment that isn't swayed by who claps, who frowns, or who remains silent. You have to practice seeing approval as optional, not essential. Start small. Notice every time you pause before seeking someone's reaction. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it feels right to me, or because I want them to like me? This simple question, asked regularly, rewires your attention. You start valuing your own integrity over applause. Imagine a life where your actions aren't designed for someone else's gaze, where your choices are guided by principle rather than popularity. That life is calmer. That life is stronger. That life is yours. And getting there requires daily exercises, tiny but powerful. Write down one decision each day and note why you made it. Was it for approval or for truth? Meditate for 5 minutes, observing your urge to impress or be admired, and let that urge pass without following it. Reflect each night on moments when you acted authentically and savor that feeling. Slowly, you'll notice a shift. The craving for recognition begins to lose its grip. Seneca captured this beautifully. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Approval is exactly that, a craving. The more you chase it, the emptier you feel. But the moment you start prioritizing your own judgment, your own values, your own sense of right, you tap into a freedom few ever experience. You stop being a prisoner of fleeting attention. You begin to live with purpose. You begin to live like a Stoic. So start today. Notice every impulse to seek validation. Pause, reflect. Choose integrity over applause. Turn inward for your sense of worth. Social approval will still exist. People will still judge, still nod, still smile or frown, but you won't be at the mercy of it. You will have something far stronger, a mind anchored in your own reason, a heart that doesn't wobble with the tides of opinion, and the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who truly knows themselves. That's freedom. That's power. That's the Stoic way. Number 7, life is unpredictable, and resisting its flow only brings frustration. Life is unpredictable. It doesn't matter how much you plan, prepare, or imagine every possible scenario. You will encounter moments that catch you off guard, moments where everything you thought was solid suddenly feels shaky. And here's the brutal truth the Stoics understood long before we put words to it. Resisting that unpredictability only drags you down into frustration, anxiety, and wasted energy. Said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. You see, the key isn't trying to control what happens around you. That's a fool's errand. But instead learning to navigate the currents of life with calm and clarity. Imagine your life as a river. If you fight against its flow, you're going to exhaust yourself, constantly banging into obstacles. The Stoics teach you to let the river move, to adjust your stance, and to find your footing in the shifting waters. You might not be able to choose what the river brings, but you can choose how you react. And this isn't just abstract philosophy. It's something you can practice every day. Start with the simplest step. When something unexpected happens, pause, take a breath. Don't immediately label it as good or bad. Just observe it. Ask yourself, is this within my control, or is it simply life unfolding? That moment of pause creates space between stimulus and response, a space where you reclaim your power. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Think about that. Every shock, every disruption, every curveball isn't inherently frustrating. It becomes frustrating only because you resist it. You want life to bend to your desires, but it has no obligation to comply. And once you see that resistance as the source of your suffering, you can start to let it go. You can begin to practice something profoundly freeing: acceptance without passivity. Acceptance means recognizing that unpredictability is the nature of existence. It's not about surrendering ambition or desire. It's about aligning your energy with what is actually happening rather than what you wish would happen. Here's a practical exercise you can do today. Choose one small thing that goes off script in your day, something minor yet noticeable. Maybe a plan changes, or a task doesn't go smoothly. Instead of reacting with annoyance or stress, pause. Reflect on the fact that the only part of this you control is your response. Then, consciously decide to meet the situation with curiosity or calm instead of resistance. Small moments like this, repeated consistently, train your mind to navigate life's bigger storms with grace. The beauty of this practice is that it reshapes your relationship with uncertainty. You start to see life not as a series of obstacles to overcome, but as a flow to move through. You become more resilient because your energy isn't wasted fighting what cannot be changed. And over time, frustration loses its grip. It's replaced by a quiet confidence, a steady recognition that life's unpredictability isn't an enemy. It's the canvas on which your strength, clarity, and wisdom are painted. So start today. Let go of the illusion that life will always follow your script. Notice when resistance creeps in and gently redirect your focus to what's within your control: your thoughts, your choices, your actions. The Stoics knew this. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Don't let imagined frustration steal your calm. Practice stepping back, accepting life as it is, and choosing your response. The river keeps moving, so float with it, steer when you can, and feel the freedom that comes from mastering yourself, not the world. Now that you've uncovered these 7 brutal truths about human nature, you might be feeling a mix of clarity and discomfort. That's exactly the point. The Stoics didn't sugarcoat reality. They wanted you to face it, understand it, and rise above it. Remember, true freedom comes not from changing the world, but from mastering your own mind. If this video opened your eyes even a little, imagine how much more grounded and resilient you could become by putting these Stoic principles into daily practice. So don't just watch, reflect, act, and let these truths guide the way you respond, not react, to the chaos around you. And if you're hungry for more insights that cut through the noise and help you live with calm, clarity, and control, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your journey toward mental strength and unshakable peace is just beginning. Until next time, embrace reality as it is, not as you wish it to be, and watch how your life transforms.